for the moment, which is one of my favorite shows that I get to guest on quite a bit. And she is going to help us because remember last week we were rogue. We had no producer, we had no
We were
helper. So now we have Vienna's going to like watch us today and see if we're in danger or if we're doing okay. So far, I've got the live going on YouTube for sure. We've got the Instagram turned on, and it looks like we're turned on TikTok as well. But now I'm echoey. All right, wait, hold on. Let me hold on. Hold the
oh, I
line.
should actually.
There we go. All right. All right. Shut off that one. Are we good? Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Um, okay,
Yeah, you
perfect.
sound okay to
I
me.
think we did it. Vienna's watching me
Woohoo!
struggle, but with great support in the background. We were trying to turn on the closed captions for you guys today, but for whatever reason, it's not letting me do it. But know that Vienna's going to help us get closed captions for everybody, which I think is going to be just so great, and I'm excited about it.
I'm super happy about that because some of my best friends are deaf, and I'm really excited that it'll be accessible for
Yes.
everybody.
Yes. Okay, so we've got a
Yay!
couple hellos. Maureen is here. Mom's here, screaming Shannon.
Maureen, I miss you. Hi.
I love it. Good morning, Baton Rouge. Good morning to the Poke Vaughn. Good morning to everyone. Thanks for being with us today. It is a kind of crazy day for me and Dr. Shan because we both happen to be out of studio. I'm in Indiana and Shan is in Florida right now.
I am. I'm in sunny Orlando, Florida, my folks' house. So,
How was
yeah.
Legoland?
It was really fun, actually. So, y'all, I have a
Good.
6.5-year-old, and he loves Legos and was just absolutely the perfect age for the experience. I love Legos too. Who doesn't love Legos? Legos are amazing,
Yeah.
um, and a little less intense than some of the big parks. So that was really fun.
I'll take it.
And V, did
We
you
have an
get any sleep
international
last night?
audience today. Yes, Ireland is in the house.
Wow. Did you get any sleep last night, V, or were you like, how much sleep
No,
did you get? Because I know you were up sort of
none.
watching the Iran stuff.
No, first of all, I don't sleep well when I'm away from a wife who I love, Natalie, who might be watching also. And I just always feel like weird the first night in a hotel. I never feel like totally settled, even though it's a very nice hotel.
Yeah.
Um, and so I didn't sleep. And also I was worried that Trump was gonna, bomb all of the energy infrastructure in Iran, which I should have known he would chicken out. He's actually on TV right now. I have CNN on in the background here, and he's taking a lot of reporter questions, which is how I know he's panicking. He's
Oh,
being very
interesting.
calm. He's being very nice. He's like, no, you know what? We are going to have ICE at the airports, but I'm going to have them not wear their masks because, we're with you on that. We understand where you're at. First of all, you are panicking. He saw his approval rating as negative 48 points this morning, I'm sure.
Wild.
Yeah, but he
And it's been a
decided,
week.
thank God, he decided that he was first of all he lied. He said that he and Iran were talking all weekend. Iran? Who? You talking to the new Ayatollah? Who in Iran? And he's like, we were talking all weekend, me and Iran, and we're really getting to a great place. And so I'm going to hold off. I'm going to delay my strikes for 5 days. No strikes today at all. No nothing. And everything's going great, and we're having a great chat. And then Iran was like, the fuck we are. Hi, this is Iran. We've not talked to this
It's
motherfucker
not true.
once. We didn't talk to him not one time. Not once. There's a lot of swearing for the morning.
I get it.
I'm so keyed up. I'm so keyed up about him. But he's getting on his plane to go to Memphis now. And he says that we've reached major points of agreement with Iran, which we have not. He just knows that bombing critical infrastructure will be awful, and oil is already at, I think, it's well over $100 a barrel today. So
Well, I think we're going to be talking a little bit about like respectability politics today with the Houston rodeo anyway. And I feel like swearing is historically appropriate. We shouldn't be putting
for these
respectability
moments,
politics
I
on
know
each
my
other
mom's in the chat.
at this moment in time.
Mom's like, V, enough with the swear words. Other people are saying this is swearing times, Mom. So I don't know, but we do have Wisconsin in the
Sorry,
chat, want to
Maureen.
keep it Midwestern sweet. So all right, so let's get into the stuff that happened this weekend before we get into some of the headlines and other things that we want to chat about. The Houston rodeo, very
Yes.
interesting to me. I was not aware of their game.
No, no. Well, and their game has been changing rapidly, I think, is one of the things that is a public topic of
Yes.
conversation. So I wasn't aware of this until you brought it to my attention, and then I went down a rabbit hole. Right. So the Houston Rodeo, this is one of those moments where people have been using social media to kind of like police respectability politics in certain
Mhm.
spaces. So there was kind of an explosion on social media of images of people at the Houston Rodeo dressed in ways that many people would not consider family friendly, right? Um,
Mhm.
but the question then becomes who gets to decide what is family friendly? What does that mean exactly? But the Houston Rodeo has gone ahead and implemented a enforceable dress code now at the rodeo, which is like
Rodeo dress code.
a rodeo dress code. A rodeo
What?
dress code. When you first sent me this story, when you were thinking about it, I thought it was the actual like people in the rodeo that were wearing like boulder chaps or something like that. But no, this is the people in the stands. So they've implemented now like the usual like no gang signs, no gang insignia, no inflammatory tattoos that are visible, but also no underwear, no excessive skin, and no excessive rips. And so the thing about this that is now a topic of conversation, right, is on the one side, you've got people being like, there are kids at this rodeo, and people are basically
Sure.
wearing jean short thongs, right? And that is kind of an issue.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have a long history in this country of things like dress codes being unevenly enforced and being used to police Black and brown bodies specifically,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And
That's what I was
so,
wondering
and a
if this
lot
was
of,
about that a little bit. Yeah.
yeah. And so there definitely has been a lot of chatter about that online. And there's like good historical precedent for this, obviously, too,
Hmm.
right? This happens at clubs a lot.
Hmm.
Where like dress codes are used to let some people in and some people out, right? And keep some people out. And people call it like velvet rope racism, a term I'd never
Hmm.
heard before, but was really interested and went down a rabbit hole with, right? And it's about sort of like who the bouncer is and how clear the policy is and that sort of thing. We can
Hmm.
also think about how this intersects with the DoD's policies. I'm still going to call it the DoD. I know it's the DOW now, but that's fine. With unevenly enforcing things about like being clean shaven, right? When there are
Right.
conditions
Right.
that affect the skin of Black men more than white men, where shaving can cause really painful bumps and that sort of thing. So
Hmm.
it's one of these really interesting cultural sites where race and identity and geography and all of these different things kind of intersect, and I was fascinated reading about it the last couple of days.
I was enjoying looking at the fashion. It came across my FYP. I don't know why. I've not been to Texas really ever. I've never been to a rodeo, and all of a sudden I'm getting all Houston rodeo like fit checks and stuff. I was like, dude, it made me want to go. It looked like so much fun. And someone in the chat here is saying, didn't Daisy Dukes literally come from Texas? Like, yes.
Pretty sure they did, right? Yeah.
I
And
know. And then the poor buckle bunnies, they can't have their assless chaps and their denim thongs. It's a terrible thing. But I was like, okay, I'm very easily influenced by like costumes and whatnot. As you know, we love a dress up day.
theater kids,
And
yes.
theater kids big time. And I was like, this has big theater kid energy, like absolutely theater kid energy. And I was introduced to a new brand that I had never heard of, which is called Ariat. And I was like, I wonder if they've got this at the Boot Barn up by me. It is like very fancy men's rodeo wear, but none of these fellas look like they had ever roped a cow or ridden a rodeo or whatever it is. They were more rodeo clown than rodeo rider. But I was like, I
Oh
am this is my new summer aesthetic will be Houston rodeo because
my gosh.
for South by Southwest, which I didn't get to go to, I was like, oh, I'm going to Texas. So I bought this huge belt buckle that has like an eagle on it. It's like laughably, I was trying to like take back patriotism or something.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, I think I would look good in
Appropriation.
this. I, yes. Tom Simonetti's been trying to keep me from getting a cowboy hat for a good 30 years now, and I think he may fail this. But it's
He's
cowboy
wrong.
cosplay summer for V Spear.
I love it. Well, next time you're out in Denver, I should take you to Rockmount too, which is where the snap front shirt first made an appearance with the,
I
like the
would love
mother of
that. A little pearl
pearl.
snaps, yes.
Uh-huh. It has been in the same spot in Denver since the late 1800s, and they have some fire prints. It's amazing.
I
I'm
just think I
also
could make
thinking,
it look good.
speaking of like skimpy outfits coming out of Texas, I'm also thinking about like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, right?
Yes.
So it's like a really interesting conversation. You know what I mean? Like, what is sexy? What is inappropriate? That kind of thing. So yeah, I was
And
really
like the
fascinated about
Beyonce
that.
tour had some of the best outfits, some of the best costumes. And if you're wearing your Beyonce Cowboy Carter outfit to the Houston rodeo, good for you. That shit was expensive. I feel like, you know, you should get to
Yeah.
wear it a couple times. People really
And
put
where
money
else
into
are
those
you
Cowboy Carter
going to
outfits.
wear it? Right. Right. Like if you're on
So,
theme, you know. Um,
yes.
so
Wait, we have
I
another
do you
fun
want to
comment.
hear
You got to talk to Olivia about this. So I oftentimes I do Olivia is a lesbian travel company and I sometimes like go on one of their trips and I do like a chat like because what do lesbians want to do on vacation? Watch a keynote from a news creator. Like that's what they want. There are DJs and there are other things too, but mine is usually a pretty popular thing. Where like literally at
love
11
it.
o'clock throngs of women come from the pool into an air conditioned like little theater that I'm at and will watch me talk about like the history of lesbian feminism for like an hour and then we'll just like kiki and hang and then go jump in the pool afterwards. But I agree, I have got to bring Olivia my cowboy outfit. Oh wait, you're saying Olivia? I thought you were talking about Olivia the travel company. You're talking about Olivia Juliana. The I have to talk to Olivia Juliana, the political commenter who lives in Houston, about this. Okay,
Oh,
anyway, back to Olivia the lesbian travel company. Though I will, in fact, be bringing my cowboy outfits to Turks and Caicos or wherever we go with them next.
fantastic. You also should come
Yep.
out to Sundance in January. That's
Yes.
also now that it's going to be in Boulder. And that's also a good excuse to wear some Western wear because that's
I
usually the
think it's
vibe at
time.
Sundance as well. Hmm.
It's time.
Hmm.
All right.
Hmm.
Well, Houston Rodeo, thank you for your service this weekend. It was a great time.
All right. Do you want to hear my little list of things, V, here that I'd love
Yeah.
to talk to you about? You can pick the next topic.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We've obviously got the Bachelorette being pulled. That's a huge thing.
I know.
Banksy was outed. We can talk about that a little bit more. That was the big Guardian
Okay.
article about Banksy's identity. White Lotus
Mm-hmm.
casting, which I think is really interesting. There's like the cast for the next season is basically done. Val Kilmer being resurrected using AI.
Freaked
The
me out. Yeah.
yeah, crazy. The Buffy reboot and Nicholas Brendan sadly passing away.
Mm-hmm.
Age of Attraction and age gap relationship TV. Those are my big topics. Where do you want to go
Okay.
next?
Let's start with The Bachelorette because I feel like I know that it just happened last week because it was supposed to air like last week,
Last
right?
night.
Or last night it was supposed to air. I feel like we've been talking about her Bachelorette getting pulled for weeks. I feel like
I
this
know.
has been going on for years. I have lived lifetimes in the amount of time that Taylor Frankie Paul has been pulled from The Bachelorette. It's literally only been like 3 or 4 days.
But it has been such a huge deal and such a big like flashpoint for conversations about reality TV and the entertainment industry and all these different things. So can you give me like
Yes.
your background on Taylor Frankie Paul and the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives? Do you watch? Is
Yes.
that a thing you okay?
I did. I love to watch straight people struggle in love. So watching the Mormon housewives is like a very guilty pleasure for me because these women are so successful and they hate their husbands so bad. And on one side for me, I'm like, ooh, it's like watching the Mormon church, like this pillar of patriarchy and like religious nationalism. Like Mormons will call Mormonism like the original American religion and stuff, right? So watching it sort of crumble and not just crumble and women are the victims of it, men are the victims of it. So it's I think a
Right.
fascinating like social watch, the Mormon Wives. And so I watched from the beginning. And if you watch Taylor Frankie Paul in season 1, she has a different husband. She was married to Mr. Paul, the original. and they have their two kids,
OG.
and she's, it's COVID, everybody's dancing, living in the unprecedented times, and she seems really happy. And I get where she was the leader of this mom talk thing back then. Throughout the seasons, this woman has significantly deteriorated in front of the cameras, and I don't enjoy watching that about her, to the point that, like, someone who's so into their hair and their makeup and their clothes and being on TikTok and whatnot really doesn't even get dressed anymore in this most recent season. Like, she is obviously not a well woman. And they sort of joke her that she loves her sweatpants, and I'm like, but does she? I think she needed better friends, if you want the truth. Like, I think that the Mormon wives are not, like, if that were us, I'd be like, Shan, where's your witchy dresses? Okay, are you okay, honey? Like, we've been doing sweatpants a couple times. Where's your fun witchy dresses? Like, I would notice that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I feel like they must have noticed something was wrong, but they're not doing anything about it because they're so focused on their own careers. So there's that going on with her. She gets involved with this guy, Dakota. They get pregnant. The family doesn't like him. Her family's very there's just a lot of generational trauma in this family that had never been explained until this season. And I feel for her mom, and also I feel for Taylor. It's difficult to have a mom who has not been able to mature to the level that you need her to when you're now the child, when she's still sort of like stunted in her childhood and the trauma she experienced being pregnant at 15 and with an abusive guy and whatnot. So that's kind of the background on Taylor Frankie Paul. I think Dakota is sort of this type of narcissist where he loves to get her spun up in a way that, like, the crazier he makes her, the more in control and loved he feels. Like, he is a person who thrives in chaos. So he will get her spun all the way up until she is like feral. It's also not okay to throw metal chairs at your partner. So
Especially when your
it's a
kid's
dual
around. Yeah, I mean,
toxicity.
never, but the sound of the kid, and I watched the
It was
video and I
sad.
kind of wish I hadn't. Yeah.
But I
Because
think
the
this
presence of
dual
the child there made that
toxicity
extra
is
hot.
very, very, very familiar to me as a person who has been around people who like to get you spun up until you're absolutely, like, at your breaking point psycho. Um, I dated this girl one time who spun me up so bad that when I would start to cry and hyperventilate, she would smile. And I think that a lot of us have been in these relationships with and that's when I knew it was over. When I saw the smile, I was like, oh no, like,
Mhm.
you did this on purpose. This was the goal. Like, this has brought you not like a big
Yeah.
smile, like that little, anybody who's dated a narcissist knows
Satisfied.
that little
Oh, I know
satisfied smile.
exactly what you're
And I was
talking
like,
about. Yeah.
I have got to get out of here. And then I called Shannon. She got me out of there, and it was great. But it was, you got to have friends, man. But I need Taylor to have that friend. I need her to have that friend that's not like, Dakota's a fucking loser, man. It's like, no, Dakota thrives on your mental health being poor, and I'm worried for you for that. We have to get you out of
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. 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 So I'm like new to the talk stuff. I've been looking into it. I was going to, when we were going to be covering the Bachelorette, my plan was to like binge the Secret Lives of Mormon
Hmm.
Wives last week, and I still plan to watch it at least the first couple of seasons at some point because it's such a moment of cultural conversation. But I come from the Bachelorette end of things because I did watch The Bachelor and Bachelorette in when I was doing my PhD. I don't know if you remember this or not because we were living near each
Yes.
other, but there was like
Yeah.
overlap. But we had like a bachelor betting circle that was mostly PhD students and poets.
Yeah.
And actually, my friend Kim, her
Oh
husband
yeah, I
Nick,
love Kim.
she met Nick through this bachelor betting circle, basically, where we had like brackets and there were prizes and it was crazy. But I stopped watching. It started really falling apart in 2016 or 2017,
Yeah.
especially when the first Black Bachelorette, Rachel Lindsay, they had on one of the male contestants had a history of tweeting some pretty racist things. Um,
Hmm.
and when that came out, there was a lot of backlash against production. And then Chris Harrison defended some contestants doing some
Yep.
really shitty things.
Yes. Hmm.
Sorry, Maureen. And I'm like, your mom, sorry, Maureen. Um, and so then Chris Harrison was gone. And then
Yep.
there was stuff with racism and the producer. So
Hmm.
then the producer was gone. And
Hmm.
as of last year, they actually like took a break with The Bachelor, right? Like it was doing so
Yes.
poorly that they pushed
Hmm.
a season. So I, of course, as people who know people who do production things, like I am so fascinated. Like I want to read all about what is going on behind the scenes right now. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Not
Well,
just
some of the
from like a
fellas have
nosy
come out.
Nelly way, but also
Some of the
from a kind
fellas
of
have
like,
come out to yes, they've said like, no, it was awful, and the vetting that we went through. How could she not go through this? And like, you
yeah,
wasted my time. I quit my job to come on this show, and like,
yeah. It's intense for the contestants. I
yeah.
always kind of thought that they would get like a clothing budget or somebody helping to dress them, but no, like if you go on The Bachelor, you're not really getting paid. You have to bring all your own clothes, and there are
Mm-hmm.
intense costume changes. I mean, you are spending
Hmm.
thousands of dollars. Those
Hmm.
limo stunts, a lot of them are paid for by the contestants, right?
Hmm.
So there's real investment and sort of shaking up of your life if you're going to be a contestant on one of these shows. So, well, I think ABC absolutely made the right call. Um, People are really rightfully questioning the vetting process and the purpose of the show and the intersection between kind of like legacy reality television and influencer culture. And I think it's really
Hmm.
interesting to see that friction between these two forms of media cause a real problem.
And also just the legal behind these shows. We talked about on Friday's show with Dava, who's very into like she does a lot of the covering of like the culting of TLC and like a lot of the 90 Day Fiance and Duggars and all those kind of shows. And we were talking about how like American Idol really broke American television in terms of realizing that you could have high quality content that advertisers want to buy and not pay any of the talent that are creating the content. So we
Yes.
went from like sitcoms and television shows and concerts and stuff to, oh, if everything's a reality TV show or a competition show, the rules say that you don't have to pay the contestants because they're competing for some prize that has some established value. And with American Idol contracts, we're now hearing after Kelly Clarkson, thank God, because I love Kelly Clarkson so much, but after Kelly Clarkson, they sort of realized like, hey, not only are we going to not pay you to be on here, but we're going to own you for the rest of your music career. We will own every possible record you could ever make, every song you want to do, every time you want to go on a tour, anytime you want to do a collab, you have to ask American Idol first. And that has cost people their whole careers. It has cost them money and it has driven them mad. And so, and that happens with the chef cooking shows on Food Network and all those cooking shows, Cupcake Wars, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Those contestants, at least when I was back at James Beard, so take me to like 2019 and prior, none of those guys get paid. And you
Right.
sometimes, like you said, have to bring your own stuff, like your own tools and everything. Maybe they pay your flight and hotel, but they don't pay for anything else.
Right.
So I'm interested with the contracting and the way that people who are getting into the influencer and creator and reality TV star space are, they get you all spun up and they make you think, don't worry about it. Just sign this. You're going to be fine. We're going to take care of you. Otherwise, you won't have the opportunity. Right. And you're like, well, this is my chance to get out of Ohio. Like, I'm going to sign it. And I'm wondering what these boys who were contestants signed in terms of NDA because they're a little bit talking about their experience, but they're not being hypercritical. And the winner is being
Mm,
extremely defensive of Taylor. And maybe he really did fall in love with her, and maybe he really does feel bad for her and understands her in a way that we don't. But I'm like, I would love to know what the men think. I'd love to know what the hotels and all the other experiences that they have that give the Bachelor those experiences
right.
for free are doing. I think it's going to be tricky. And I also wonder if Vanderpump Villa, which is another show that filmed the Dad Talk episode with them that Dakota is featured in, will also pull that episode because Dakota is just
Interesting.
as much to blame for what's going on here.
Yeah, yeah, not innocent. Um, this also makes me think about unions, right? In terms
Hmm.
of television production stuff, right? If you are
Hmm.
making a TV show, generally the people that you have involved in that TV show have to be involved with the actors union or the the production union, that kind of thing. But here you don't, so you don't have to have mandatory breaks, or the hours aren't the same, you don't have a rep, the rules are different. And so we've seen controversies explode over this too, with things like Love is Blind and the way the
Mhm.
contestants are treated and like not
Mhm.
fed and plied with alcohol and that kind of thing. But it is another kind of discussion that actually dovetails right with the Val Kilmer AI thing too, about, who who benefits from these kinds of endeavors in which you are making something in which the subject of the media product is not actually getting paid what they normally would if you were making a sitcom, a drama, that kind of thing, right? um, and how do studio systems and networks, how do their boards reward that kind of behavior? um,
Mhm.
and in terms of exposure too, right, this idea that you trade your time, you put money in for exposure, it's starting, it seems like what they were trying to do actually here with the Bachelorette is flip that on its head a little bit, right? The Bachelor and Bachelorette as a franchise were suffering, they were
Mhm.
losing their audience. And so they were trying to pull in somebody who
Mhm.
actually had a built-in audience that they wanted to like synergize and monetize,
Mhm.
right? Like they're actually trying to take
Mhm.
those people and expose them to the Bachelorette, because I think Taylor Frankie Paul has like 7 million followers or something like that,
Something
right?
crazy, yeah. Mhm.
And I wonder about the legitimacy angle of this too, and how it's going to influence conversations about influencers crossing over into legacy media spaces going forward as well. And I'm especially curious your take on that as somebody who has a foot in both worlds.
So here's the thing about that. I think they're trying to make like company towns out of each network. And they're
Yeah.
trying to make it in a way that that talent is cross-pollinating across everything in the streamer world. So, Disney, ABC, Hulu. Well, that's why you've got
ESPN,
Mormon
right? Too.
and ESPN too. Yes. So that, and Taylor Frankie, one of her dates was going to a football game, right? Which probably would have been featured on, and she was going with a former football player. So now we're getting the sports and ESPN. And you're very right. That was good to point out. So they are trying to cross pollinate across all the channels to strengthen their streaming platform, is my feeling. It is a lot less to do with the quality of content and a lot more to do with capitalism, because you've got Taylor Frankie Paul's, you got the Mormon Wives show on Hulu. Well, so is Vanderpump Villa. Then you got ABC streaming. Okay, well, now we've got her on The Bachelor. And then you've got, what was the other one that I just said? Disney. Like, there's just, they're putting them across all the different
Uh-huh.
shows to create, like, this is our network talent, the way that like MS Now and CNN would really love it if I would stop going on both of their channels. Like, they would really love it if I picked one. But
Right.
because I'm in this sort of space where I haven't signed a contract with anybody, I can go across all channels, and I think that's
Hmm.
really valuable. But we see this in smaller ways too, like with the NBC's digital stream of Thanksgiving Day Parade, right? You have your digital stream, and then this year they had Wes from The Bachelor do the digital stream. Well, he wasn't especially good at it. That's not really his skill. But they were trying to put one of their on-air talent in a digital space. They try to make all the news anchors have YouTube shows and Substacks now.
Hmm.
It's like they're trying to take their talent and create like the Chicago of CNN and like this, or
Yeah.
CBS. This is like everybody goes on every show and we cross pollinate, and it's like yeah, minimize your costs, exploit the products, maximize your profits. You're exactly right, Daniel. This is a business decision. And I think they made the wrong one, because speaking of like ESPN being in the Disney sort of swirl, the Bachelorette that we wanted was Alona Mar. Okay. You could have had Alona Mar, the
Yes.
Olympian, who everyone is rooting for love, who is so charming and dynamic, who also has a huge following and is non problematic. I would have watched Alona Mar. I would have set up parties to watch her. I would have bought merch to watch her. And then you could have seen her on other places. Like, her dates would have been outstanding. She's so authentic. But that is the thing. These executives in their high towers don't think about like the actual authenticity of anything. They think about, well, just pick the leader of Mom Talk. Oh, she's
Right.
drama. People will watch for the drama.
Right, totally. I believe the producer that they brought on for this tour, that's been taken over the Bachelorette franchise and Bachelorette, also did Flavor of Love and a few
First of
other
all, that
of
was an
those.
outstanding show. Flavor of
I know,
Love,
it
I
was.
stand by being the best reality show that has ever existed that gave us Tiffany New York Pollard. Okay. They're like Flavor of Love. I do believe that Flava Flav loved those girls. And I think he really was hysterical. It was a terrible show. But the talent on there, outstanding. Outstanding. Rock of Love. Remember Rock of Love?
Oh, that's the one. Okay, our like 4-bedroom apartment in Astoria, that was appointment television for us.
Yes.
We would watch
The
Rock
girl
of
with the
Love every
pink
week.
hair.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
obsessed.
Oh my gosh. And just the
Obsessed.
bandana everywhere. I mean, the challenges
Everywhere.
were ridiculous. I mean, I think, early 40s me watching Rock of Love would be mortified in a lot of different ways, but it
No,
was a
but in
good
my 20s,
time.
it was perfect. I was like, this seems like a really good idea. We should do this
Yeah.
show. This is smart. I wonder with Gen Z, because they say they make The Bachelorette and everything for like that young audience. And for millennials, that was a really good show for us. And I did believe that people were actually finding their partners, and many of them did in the early seasons. I mean, if you think back to the first Bachelor being like that regular Joe guy, Joe Bachelor,
Yeah.
whatever he was, like he wasn't like some rich, crazy dude. I think it made sense. But now it's very much about really like watching people have mental breakdowns on television over their insecurities and like desperate attempt to find love in a contrived way where experts have told you that your wife is in this room, your husband is in this pod, like they've put that layer of pressure on it
Yeah.
also, and it's not. And I'm glad that I used to watch Married at First Sight, which I also really used to like, and I love the premise of it, using social science to help you find somebody you like. They haven't had a married couple in years and years and years that make it, and there's a lot of abuse in that show too. And now they've like fired the panel of experts as if it was the experts that were making these
Right.
matches.
Right.
Love is Blind
Like the
too.
first
Yeah.
season there was at least one couple, but now yeah, they I don't think they've had a successful marriage in a while.
Mm-mm.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. I when right out of college, those of us who were actors all had survival jobs, right? The things that we
Yeah.
did so that we could keep
Oh yes.
acting. And
Catering.
one of
Hmm.
catering. Yep. And V and I both did that, right? And actually fantastic survival job. I mean, like
Loved
elite,
it.
incredible in a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
One of the jobs that I had for like a week and a half is I worked craft services, which is like the table that you set up so everybody can get snacks, right? The crew, the
Hmm.
people on a reality show that never aired called Ivana Young Man, which was which was Ivana Trump. This must have been, oh gosh, right after we graduated, 2005, 2006.
4, 5, yeah.
It was Ivana Trump coaching this woman who is our age now, Kathy, how to be a cougar,
Right.
basically, like a rich woman in her 40s. And they brought in all of these young dudes in their 20s to court Kathy, right? And we were at like the Waldorf Astoria in New York
Of course.
City and like Chelsea Piers and with the helicopters and all that. But the funniest thing in the entire world was that like I was around all these dude contestants all the time who were just
Uh,
like behind the scenes broing out and talking about their acting jobs, right? So it is such a like the early aughts reality dating scene, like I have seen behind the curtain a little bit too, right? And those dudes were
mhm.
purely there to try to promote their own kind of brand. And now I'm like, I wonder what happened to them. I wonder if
Well, and
anybody
let's not
made it.
forget some of the toxic shows for boys that were out there for young men, like the pickup artist that me and
Mhm.
Whitney got involved with. Do you
Tell me
remember
more
this?
about that. No, I don't.
Oh my God. So Whitney, who we went to theater school with, and I were like, got because you like literally find little stupid jobs to do while you're like trying to be on Broadway or something. And Whitney had found a thing that was like casting women to help the pickup artists like in clubs and things, like to be like the girls that they would hit on, or to be like the female sidekick of the girl, the wing woman, to like help
Like
dudes
best
like
friend.
build
Yeah.
their confidence and all this stuff. And I was like, okay. And her code name for it was Zip. She went by Zip, and she had a blog called Zip's Dirty Laundry. I don't know if you remember any of this. It was
Don't.
fantastic.
I missed
it
this
was
somehow.
it was a quick time, but it was a good time. And so I was like working with Whitney on this thing. Like, I was like, okay, well, I could probably, they were like, well, like a lesbian would know how to pick up girls. So like, maybe we should ask, like interview you basically on like how you interact with women in clubs and things. And maybe we can like apply this to these guys who are coming on the show to like see whatever. And I was like, okay, great. Dude, the game, these dudes were such losers. They were so weird. They're just like the manosphere now, where they're just.
Yeah.
But this is where I learned about like negging and like the way that they would like approach a pack of women and pick the second most attractive one conventionally to try and target to use her insecurities to get the hot one to like them and all this stuff. And I was like, Whitney, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm never doing this again. But this was the show. Was like
Yeah.
them coming up with code names for themselves. Like mine was Stacey Jacks. I don't know why. That's what they came up with for me.
A
Hers
code
was
name.
Zip's Dirty Laundry. And there was like mystery and like there's a guy right
Oh
now
my
out there,
gosh.
Jordan, that has like a very popular podcast for men. He grew up and he got married and he's a nice man now, but he was very involved. And it's like this was what the early 2000s were like. Dating was a game. It was like
Yeah.
reality TV, but we didn't have smartphones or anything, so it had to be produced. There was no like influencer thing at that point. Like you got on MTV or you didn't. And if you got on MTV, your fame was literally 5 minutes. Like a girl I went to high school with got on MTV and they were doing like a dating show on like TRL for a hot second, you know, like in Times Square.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
her special talent was that she could eat an ice cream cone in one bite. I'm just going to let you know how that went. Pride of my town. Great job, Megan. Mom, if mom's still watching, she remembers this because Megan's mom was mean to my mom. And every time she brings her up, she's like, yeah, well, at least my daughter's special talent wasn't deep throating an ice cream cone on MTV at 3:45 p.m.
That is
But TV
incredible.
is not forever. The internet is forever. And so that's why I
Yeah.
feel bad for the kids who are out there now, because you can't do like dumb spring break, dumb shows that people knew were kind of dumb. They didn't take it serious. Now they take it so
Right.
serious.
Well, can we also talk about this Age of Attraction show as well,
Yes, let's go to that next. I
so this
watched.
is you did. Okay, I haven't
People
watched
love
yet.
the
So what
Megan story. Oh
this
my
is
gosh.
incredible. Wow. 15 minutes of fame and that's what we're doing with
Yeah.
it. It's good. Hmm.
Yeah. Age of Attraction, I
So
watched.
so what did you think? Tell me your thoughts on this.
One, I am deeply suspicious of Nick Viall the way I am like deeply suspicious of Ashton Kutcher these days. I'm like, you guys have like something going on behind the eyes that you're not like fully transparent about. I don't know what it is, but I feel like Nick Viall is like always like in the wrong place. Like he's always like around the danger, but like I'm not actually dangerous. And I think it's interesting that he started this show about his 18-year age gap with his wife, who he met when she
Mm,
was 21 and he was like 40. I am 43. You could not pay me to high five a 21-year-old. We have nothing in common. There is not, you know what I mean? Like that's to me, that's very strange. Your age gap is like way, way too big for where you're at in your life. And to try and make this like so normalized by having this reality show where you are bringing people in and forcing people who are very young to date people who are much older than them. And the only question you can't ask is, how old are you? Eventually they do say how old they are, and there's just no way that it doesn't affect you. Like some of these age
right.
gaps are like 30, 40 years. Oh my god, Vienna's putting up the side.
Oh,
Thank you. Look,
amazing.
see, we have cool producer stuff happening. So this is the show. Did you watch?
I have not watched yet. I might have
Okay.
to just for background research. But I did
Yeah.
a little digging on it, and it seems like there are already problems between some of the contestants. Here's the thing: Love Is Blind, right? Is about like taking physical attraction sort of out of the picture for a minute, right? Age is
Mm-hmm.
about more than physicality in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different ways, right? I mean, I think that you probably remember the age gap relationship that I had in late college, early and right afterwards, which is what I'm thinking about when we're talking about narcissists,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that relationship
Mm-hmm.
was not good for me in a lot of different ways because that age gap was
Mm-hmm.
weaponized, and obviously,
Yeah.
and so So it's really about like life stages and experiences and power imbalances and that kind of thing. Not always. I mean, I think that there are exceptions to that, right? I wouldn't judge every
Hmm.
single person in an age gap relationship, but you use the word normalizing, and I think that's it for me, right? There's
Hmm.
something here that's like comparing an age gap to like whether or not somebody is physically attractive to you, right?
Well,
And
and
I
being like,
don't think
you're
those are the
weird
same
if you
things.
think an age gap is a problem. Like, you're the weirdo for thinking a 30-year age gap is wrong. And it's like,
Also, at this moment in time with all of the Epstein files stuff, like
feels
how
like
like read
this.
the room a little bit? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I It's such an interesting choice to produce a show like this
Hmm.
in this political moment.
Well, and here's the thing about age gaps that I'll say. I think anything after 33 is kind of fair game. Once you're 33, you've reached your Jesus age, you're a whole person. You really know yourself. You have some lived experience. There's not that big a difference between 33 and 43, 33 and 55. There's not that huge of a difference. Like, I think that it becomes like, okay, we're fully adults now. We probably have a career. We probably know who we are. We have lived experience. The thing with some of these relationships where I believe that you could find an older person or a younger person very attractive for different reasons, but it was always the same reason. The older person found the younger person attractive because they had kids and were divorced and felt like they were behind in life and wished they could get a redo. And the younger person found the older person attractive because they wanted stability, financial, whatever thing. So it was the same thing both times. That was the motivator. And as we found, a lot of times that doesn't really like work because the lived experience gap is too great. So in one of these relationships, the girl was 27 and he was 60, and
Yeah, that's the one I was reading about.
she wants children. And now, like, can a 60-year-old give a 27-year-old children? Absolutely they can, but she wants children because she wants that like family experience. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying when
Right.
he said 60, she was like, 50, I could have probably swung it, right? Like, she maybe thought he was
Yeah.
50, but the age does in fact matter. And they're like, age is just a number. And I'm like, age is just a number is something that creepy people have said to me when I was very young to try and get me softened up to the idea that like this was going to be okay. But then even as the
Uh-huh.
young person, I always felt like if you were 17 and 24, right? Like, I couldn't drink, but Mike could, like, and I didn't want
Mhm.
to drink, or and it was
Mhm.
like, he had to go to work, I had to go to school, like, it was, I'm like, what is fun about this? And then, like I said in the Demi Lovato song, when we were talking about it on Friday, when she wrote that song 29, about when she turned 29, realizing like she dated a 29-year-old when she was 16, she's like, I would never, it was never normal, there's nothing there for you.
Yeah. 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 In terms of financial stability, in terms
Yeah,
of
the
experiences you
power
have and
dynamic is
haven't
off.
had. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
reading the comment right now too. Yeah, yeah. And I feel like it's almost like a reaction to the fact that we have started really calling this out in culture too,
Mhm.
right? And so I
Mhm.
find that kind of extra disturbing that it's being presented as a kind of like, it's fine type thing, or like it's fun to watch people sort this out. Yeah,
Nick
it
gave
makes me.
away it's icky. Nick gave away a little bit of the truth in this when he was introducing it, which is he is, I think, 45 and she is 27, something like that. Um, but they met when she was 21. And I was like, okay. He was like, and now I'm ready to be a father and they have a child together and I'm ready to be married and I'm ready to do this. And I'm like, but Nick, you are essentially setting up for men. It's okay to avoid, like, fully live your 20s, sow your wild oats, feel yourself, explore the world, be untethered from responsibility, because you can always pick up a girl who's 21 and take that from her or take that from him if it's the other way around. It's always this idea of the older person is benefiting from the younger
Mhm.
person not getting lived experience and locking in. And they're like, well, we feel the same maturity wise. And I'm like, you do, because he already lived his life and is now willing to
Yeah.
kind of like be taken care of. And you're going to have a child and a man to take care of, because that's what he's looking for now, is somebody to stay home with him because he's slowed down and is tired, right? And wants like this other thing. So
Right.
What if it's a lesbian
Yeah.
couple and both are poor when it comes to the age dynamic? I mean, I'm talking about my lesbian relationships being weird when the age dynamic is off. Like I think it's a lived experience issue. And I've had friends of mine who dated much older women and they had the same kind of issue where the much older woman was in, in a power position where, they still want all things to be equal. And it's like, well, it's not going to be if you're 47 and a lawyer and we are 22 and, working in catering, like you're not going to have the same experience. And this idea, like, that you're gonna like pay for our night out and have fun. There's always an expectation on the other side. Ain't no such thing as a free lunch in a lesbian or a straight world. Like somebody expects something.
Yeah.
It's called hospice wife or nurse with a purse.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh. Had not
yes.
heard
And
either of
here,
those, but oh my gosh.
I love that. This is
Yeah.
why I love the chat. And then saying age is not just a number of kids, activity. Yeah, meds, doctor's points, diet restrictions. There's a lot of differences to overall life. But to me, and I think this is a good point Karen points out too. Who is this show for? Who
That's
is this show
such a
for?
good question. Yeah,
Because all the women
that's
on the
such a good
show, both
question.
older women and the younger women, seem very uncomfortable. Like even the older women who are getting a younger guy, they're sort of like a little uncomfortable in the first couple of episodes I watched, but they're like, my kids are your age. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. But they're doing it for like
Yeah.
an experience. The men seem very comfortable. This is a show for men, maybe.
So it would be really interesting to see the demographic information about the viewership, which, like, obviously now my academic researcher brain is like, what is that split? What's the age? Platforms like Netflix are really closed off to sharing information like that generally, unless it's about advertising or that sort of thing. So, man,
Maybe
I
we could get
hope in
people on
like
the
30
show.
years, some researcher get who on the show?
We could maybe get somebody from the show, somebody from Age of Attraction to come on. I mean, what
That'd
else
be
are y'all
really
doing?
interesting. The other thing that I'm thinking about is I wonder what Brida's take is on all of this. One of our friends, Brida from
Oh,
college, was on a show called Unreal,
right, right.
and which was a lot like kind of spoofing The Bachelor. But I believe that the one of the people who created it was a producer on The Bachelor at some point, or had some sort of background knowledge of how they're kind of
Mhm.
manipulating the contestants. So when I see stories like this too, I'm always like, I wonder what Brita would think about that. Maybe I'd reach
We
out to
should
her.
call her and ask her. We'll just call her up. She's like such a famous Hollywood like artist and actress. She's so high art now. Brita
I
was
know.
the coolest girl at school. We
The
went to school with
coolest.
this girl. She was like
The
an
coolest.
Amazonian, like 6'2", just the absolute coolest artsy person. Wagner did not appreciate her nearly enough.
No. And which is I think, lots of people at Wagner I love, but a pattern. Because
Yes.
the people who are successful now are maybe not appreciated when they were there as much. But this is for me the best way to describe Brita is I thought that she was a foreign exchange student for all of
Yes.
college, pretty much.
Correct.
She's from
Yeah, she
Delaware.
was very European. She was very European. Delaware. Yeah.
Totally. And we were
Hey,
we were in a theater group together after college too for several years. So Brita
here
and I,
is
yeah.
this brings me to an issue within the entertainment industry, which does affect our politics, which is why we talk about this stuff. Um, the amount of LA and Atlanta movie
Mhm.
studios, TV studios, reality TV, even in New York, that have shut down or moved operations and production to the UAE, I think is of grave concern. And what I've noticed since this war in Iran broke out, and especially since they blew up the Fairmont Hotel in Dubai, the massive amount of influencers and wannabe influencers that have gone to Qatar, that have taken money from the Saudis or from the Qataris to try and make it seem like the UAE and the Middle East is the place to be and everywhere else is shit. And this is the future of production and entertainment. And this is the cutting edge and everything's so liberal here. And I'm like, your entire economy and your job is propped up by actual literal slavery. Like the people who work in Dubai are enslaved people. Like that's straight up. I cannot believe you're going there. And they're like, well, I don't see it. And I'm like, correct. And it's happening. So do you have any thoughts, or we probably have to look at it more about this like influx of propaganda that's happening really since the war in Iran started, with all these influencers being like, no, Dubai is still the place to be. No, Qatar is the only place investing in media. And like, I'm so happy to be here. And I'm like, girl, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm thinking about a couple of things here, right? That the first is I just taught in my film class a couple of weeks ago about the studio system, how it
Mm,
came to be, the rise and fall of the studio system. And it brings together, thinking about that brings together a lot of the things that we're talking about, sort of space and location, um, exploitation of workers, like controlling relationships, all these different things. So,
mhm,
the studio system both began and ended because of antitrust lawsuits, which also, this is coming up a lot with the Warner Brothers merger and the fact that all
mhm,
of these media companies are consolidating into like these three-ish big nodes, right? But there was a time when if you were an actor, like the way you would kind of become an actor is move to LA, right? And try to be discovered by somebody who worked at one of these big studios. And if you were able to enter into a relationship with a studio, you signed away, not just
mhm,
like, I'm going to work for you, but the studios had morality clauses. So they controlled
mhm,
your personal life outside
mhm,
of your work life. They manufactured, famously, obviously, and manipulated relationships
mhm,
because they wanted to sort of promote different conceptions of what it meant, like to what it meant to be extremely masculine or extremely feminine. Like they were controlling
mhm,
cultural discourse around dating and gender norms and all these different things.
mhm,
They controlled your weight. They controlled what kind of character that you could play. And they were really vertically integrated. So when we were talking earlier too about like all this anti-union stuff, that kind of thing, right?
mhm,
The theaters not only the studios not only kind of like owned the actors, but the directors, the costumers, and they built these little campuses so that they could kind of keep you
mhm.
there, right? Very much like a reality production set or that sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
you didn't have to and couldn't leave to get food,
I mean, the
medical
theme parks did
care.
this too, Shan. This went on up into the theme parks in the 2004, 2005. Dollywood, Six
Oh
Flags, Busch
yeah.
Gardens all had me on campus, right? So
Yes.
they could control you from there. And they do still control your weight and every other thing about you. And they still have morality clauses. It trickles all the way down to the theme parks.
Yes, it's kind of incredible and it's still going on, right?
Yeah.
It that was supposed to sort of end in the 50s and 60s when the studio systems were completely broken up. What worries me is like another thing that happened here is that we do have labor laws in the United States, right?
Hmm.
And so what we're seeing with this reality television is they are skirting the labor laws that protect
Hmm.
the actors, right? So
Hmm.
what I'm worried about, and I'll do a deep dive before next week, is by exporting this
Hmm.
industry to another country, right? We are also going to a place where there are different sets of labor laws, and the fact that that includes slavery is obviously extremely disturbing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, but it is all this kind of like, it seems like this isolation, lack
Hmm.
of regulation, um, transnational capitalism again and again and again, where it just seems
Hmm.
to, it seems so cyclical, except this
Hmm.
point United States laws might not be able to actually disrupt it in the way it has before. And so yeah, I'm fascinated by this and curious to see where it goes.
The money that they are putting into the bots and manufacturing like acceptance for this is also intense. I was on another show, The Moment, the show with Rebs and Meredith, and we were talking about this thing with Dubai. And I said, there's 3 times that I've been invited to go to Qatar, and I'm like, not going. And so we posted about it, and I said what the events were and how much they'll offer you a crazy amount of money to
Hmm.
go over there, right? Like, I mean, life
Right.
changing money. But you literally, you cannot do that. You'll never get it back. That's what I like to call expensive money. Sounds like a lot right now. It's going to cost you everything in the long run. And I just like, I can't be a part of it. So I posted about it. And then in the comments are like, all of a sudden, after like an hour that it's posted, is like, you wish you got invited to Dubai. Nobody would say no to that kind of money. They're great people over there. I love it here. You just are jealous because you're not here. And I was like, that is all bullshit. That is all bot commenting. Like,
Yeah.
the effort and the behind the scenes manufactured like consent that happens on platforms in the comment section is the most dangerous thing. And part of what we're talking about in my keynote tonight at Purdue University, talking about parasocial propaganda, is the way that the comments really mess you up. And you can
Yeah.
only really trust people that are in front of you, or people whose comments I put on the screen, obviously, because, you know,
Because they're vetted in some way.
because they're vetted.
Um,
Yes.
can you give us a little preview of a couple of the things you're going to be talking about?
Yes. Yes. So tonight is the Omnibus series, and we're talking about parasocial propaganda, which is essentially propaganda is one of my favorite things. I love propaganda. I decorate my whole office in propaganda. Propaganda is fun, effective. It's effective because it's fun. It's like drugs. People don't get addicted to drugs because they want to end up like dead in a gutter or in jail somewhere. They get addicted because they're fun. And
Yeah.
you have to realize that fun is not fun for all that long. And so that's sort of the give take with propaganda. So back in the day, it was easier to identify because they used so much art. And you were like, that is propaganda art. You could pick out all the World War II style stuff. It was very encouraging. It was very community driven. It was very all of that. Propaganda today is a little less obvious. It's not a poster. It's a comment. It's not a, Rosie the Riveter, like this cartoon person that you could sort of project yourself on. It's Officer Jessica Foster, who is an AI generated woman who has been photographed with Trump many times in a short skirt and high heels and army uniform. She's not real. So where previously there was some level of artistry to the propaganda or some level of understanding to the American masses that this was making them feel something, but it wasn't reality. They are now using reality and artificial reality and these AI generated images to make you think that there's a real person doing this. And that if she does it, you can do it, and look at all of her friends. Meanwhile, it's like propaganda has gone from art to porn in a lot of
Oh, yeah.
ways. And so we're talking about that. And the fact that the Trump administration is bringing back those nostalgic images. So if you look at like the DHS, the Joy and Ice, I wonder if I could send this picture. Wait, Vienna, tell me how to put a picture on the screen. So I could show you the picture of what the presentation thing is from tonight. Or I can wait, I'm gonna text it to her and see if she can put it on the screen. This is why we're getting a cool producer, so that we can show you stuff. But this is one of the, wait, let me get rid of this. You're watching us work in real time, homies. The nostalgia screen, I think, is one of the most interesting ones because I think it just goes to show how Trump really lives in his own history and the way people are working things out. So we'll wait to see if she can get that up there.
Great.
She's
In the
got it coming.
meantime, also, I mean, they're not just using US propaganda, echoes of US propaganda. Nome and Homeland Security were using like actual slogans from Nazi propaganda also, or real close to it at
Hmm.
different points too, where people were pulling things up and being like, no, no, we've seen this before. Yeah, wow.
Here we are. So
Yeah,
this is
defend the
one of the
homeland.
slides from tonight's
Hmm.
presentation. And this is
Wow.
modern propaganda. This is stuff that I pulled from Instagram, like, this month. And it's the idea of Trump using nostalgia. Why does he use nostalgia? One, it's a common trigger to his boomer audience and main supporters that like this all this golden age of prosperity and like all of the civil rights and all of the good feelings of being post-war. We were the heroes. But nostalgia functions as an emotional immune system, utilizing positive memories to combat loneliness. What are we in right now? A
Mhm.
loneliness epidemic. Combat sadness and uncertainty. It boosts psychological well-being by increasing social connection, reinforcing self-worth, and providing comfort during difficult times, which in turn increases optimism about the future. Today, Trump's polls have him down 48 points. He is the least approved president and the second least approved president. He is, of all of them. That includes all of them. So interesting what he's doing. I don't know that it is slapping quite the way that it did after World War II. And then you have Christy Nome, which is one of my slides, talking about they also create a face of the message. It's not Rosie the Riveter or Uncle Sam or these sort of caricatures of America that you could project yourself on. It's a real person. And they want to be famous for being the person. Christy Nome spent $9 million in South Dakota on propaganda for freedom to work, which was her dressing up as like a welder and her dressing up as a this. And she spent $220 million on a 1 minute ad to warn immigrants to not come to this country. 1 minute, $220 million. The Sinners budget was what, 180 million?
Something
It
like
was
that.
way less.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. Um,
Yep.
as a cultural theorist, one of the things that I'm thinking about here too is in moments of political upheaval, there's been some research done that the two genres in entertainment spaces that people turn to the most are nostalgia and fantasy, right?
Mhm.
Either trying
Yep.
to escape into the past or trying to escape into an alternate reality. And I've
Mhm.
been thinking about nostalgia a lot the last couple of weeks, partially because I got to interview Ryder Strong about
Yes.
his podcast, The Red Weather, in which he kind of really thinks through himself as a nostalgic figure, and he's just done some really incredible thinking in that space about his own identity and how people are operating in the moment. But all of these like mom, dad, what were you like in the 90s social media posts are coming back right now
Yes.
too, where it's both
Mhm.
regular people and people who were stars in the 90s, showing sort of their greatest hits from that era, right?
Mhm.
And it just seems to be everywhere right now. I mean, we could talk about the Buffy reboot and the disappointment over that being canceled and that kind
Mhm.
of thing. But it's not a new thing, right? And it is amazing that we can
Mhm.
see it both across what seems neutral um neutral entertainment stuff, right? Or like
Mhm.
social media posts, but we can also see it in actual government produced propaganda.
Yeah. I'm going to send one more of these slides over to Vienna. We're just going to give you my whole presentation for tonight. I'm going to try to stream it because it's a free ticket. I think they're going to let me. I'm going to try to
Yeah.
stream it tonight, just so people can watch it because I'm really proud of it and I think it's really important. And I think you'll be shocked by how many billions of dollars the United States of America spends on propaganda, domestic and abroad, and then what the comparison is when they try to tell us, oh, China is spending all this money and we have to take over TikTok because China and the CCP are doing so much propaganda. Not nearly. So it's at 7:30 tonight. If you're in Fort Wayne, Indiana, you can get tickets. If you go to my threads, there's a link, but you could look up Purdue Omnibus Series. There's, I think, a couple tickets left for tonight. It's at the AUER Center tonight at 7:30. So
And I mean,
tonight, it's
you are
students
so
and
incredible at giving talks.
yes, students and the public. So there's that. YouTube doesn't
Wow.
say you're live unless you click on your profile. Okay, we'll have to fix that. So here's another slide from tonight's presentation on funding propaganda and influencers. And you may recognize some of your favorite influencers here. That's Dylan Page, and that's the guy on the bottom who's like from the far right. And the top picture, which didn't load when I copied it, is Tim Pool and Benny Johnson. So not to say that there aren't any left-wing propagandists, but they're doing it for the love of the game. They're not getting paid nearly what the right is, if they're getting paid at all, and that is like a systemic issue with overfunding right-wing propaganda and the left not funding any kind of real creator stuff. We do talk about Chorus later on and like, is it propaganda? Is it not? But for this particular one, just to give you an idea, Israel has a published project called Project 545. It's a PR campaign that aimed to influence AI training data and boost pro Israel messaging on social media, including funding to influencers. And some of that funding went to that fella in the corner there in the army outfit, where he went to Gaza allegedly and says, this is all the aid and Hamas isn't letting us bring it in and it's not Israel. And he did this whole thing that was funded through Project 545. The Chinese Communist Party is only spending $20 million on propaganda. And a lot of that just really has to do with trying to present China as like a cool place. And and that Chinese people are superiorly, intelligent and whatnot, or that they have a long dynasty and will never be beat. Not so much worried about your TikTok algorithm. Sweden, Denmark, and the UK, I was surprised to see spend $2.6 billion, and they do it through loopholes. They fund nonprofits in the US. These are oftentimes right wing outlets from Sweden, Denmark, and the UK that are funding foreign propaganda, and Russia, $1.6 billion. They are expected to up this 54% leading into our elections, and that is all going to right wing influencers, billions of dollars. So, for folks who get crazy freaked out, thank you for the tickets link. For people who get crazy freaked out and over focus on like Israel propaganda spending or CCP propaganda spending, it is a lot more coming from Russia, and it is a lot more coming from international right-wing organizations working in tandem with right-wing organizations in the United States and Canada to try and make the right wing palatable, because their policies and the way they treat people in authoritarian regimes is not popular. So they have to try to make it culturally cool or culturally the norm. And we saw that with Tenet Media giving, which is a Canadian organization funded by Russian money, that gave millions of dollars to Tim Pool and Benny Johnson. They have admitted it, but they say they didn't know it was Russian money, to perpetuate Trumpism, MAGA, America First, even though when Trump became president, those policies were not anywhere included in what he's done so far.
That is fascinating. I had no idea about those numbers.
So tonight,
we're
going to talk about it more tonight.
Can I just talk about Birth of a Nation real quick?
Please.
I'm
always.
so good at parties.
This is what me and Shan's friendship is like, just so you know. It's been going on for years. How long have we been
just
friends?
real quick,
Over
can
20
I talk
years?
about 25?
25 years, yeah.
I almost texted you yesterday, like, we've been friends for a quarter of a century. And then I was like, I don't want to. And then I said it out loud, and now I feel weird again.
Yep.
I love aging. I'm not worried about us getting older.
I feel great.
My 40s are the greatest time of my life, right? So this isn't like oh my
everything
gosh,
after 33, fantastic.
So much better.
So much better.
Like so much better. Thriving in the 40s, right? But it just is, it's just like a sort of mind-boggling, time goes by so fast observation rather than a kind of like, oh no, we're aging. So from a film history standpoint, one of the things that this is bringing up for me is the fact that the very first blockbuster was racist propaganda. Right. So the film Birth of a Nation, I mean, the very first American blockbuster, there were Italian blockbusters before that. I won't go into the weeds, but it was based off of a novel called The Klansman. It was directed by D.W. Griffith, whose father was a Confederate soldier and whose sort of like life mission was kind of like the South will rise again. In the early 1900s. So epic that I make all my students watch. It's almost like film hazing, right? The problem about it is the narrative is virulently racist. It ends with the Klan riding to the rescue, right? Like this is not like there's like subtle brainwashing racism here. It starts off where Griffith identifies the problem as like people from Africa were brought to the United States in the first place. And he gives the solution that like the Aryan race needs to reunite in their birthright, right? And in between is just propaganda about Reconstruction and racial purity and all these things, right? But it was the first movie that was screened in the White House. So
who was the president?
Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, of course.
I know.
That
right?
bastard.
I mean, seriously, not a surprise, right? But Wilson is often quoted, and it might be apocryphal, but I think he said it and then tried to deny it later when Birth of a Nation became more controversial. He claimed that watching it was like history writ with lightning, which is often, I know, right? which is often pointed to as like entertainment can be dangerous or whatever, right? And
Hmm.
what happened with this movie is that the Ku Klux Klan had been dead for decades, right? Like it had
Hmm.
not existed. This movie single handedly revived it. So it's like the reason that I start with it in my film studies classes is because it's really proof that entertainment isn't just about like escapism or turning your brain off, but can have real life or death consequences, have has
Hmm.
real social and material implications, right? And so when I think about this stuff, I also think about, right, like those were noxious ideals that we thought had kind of been put behind us, but they
Hmm.
were weaponized in this like sweeping epic. They were packaged in this kind of technological marvel that people had never really seen before. It was an event to go to the theater and have a full orchestra. Like it was being
Hmm.
shown in theaters where like hundreds of people could go, right? So it was like a
Hmm.
cultural phenomenon to go watch this movie. Um, and it
There
really
it
did. I
is.
mean, it Yep, there it is. And you can see what is being emphasized here is spectacle and scale. 18,000 people, 3,000
Hmm.
horses, original effects, big orchestra, right? And you can see the Klan is clearly on the poster, right? They're not hiding
Hmm.
that. Um, and this
Hmm.
movie was controversial even at the time, right? In 1915, like people were still like, wow, this is pretty racist, right? The NAACP protested it, others
Hmm.
protested it as well. But those protests kind of got run over by the sheer scale of this juggernaut, basically, that was Birth of a Nation. Um, and so it is one of these things where it is like putting these ideas, even if people find them generally noxious, into things that are popular and meant to sweep you away and meant to make you feel left out if you're not
Hmm.
part of that cultural moment.
Hmm.
Can unfortunately be very effective. And I mean, the KKK still uses Birth of a Nation as a recruiting tool. When I was growing up in Massachusetts in the 90s, you would think a liberal bastion. No, I mean, the KKK was active in my hometown and they would like hand out
Same.
videotapes of Birth of a Nation,
Same.
right? Yeah, yeah. New
We
England,
had,
people are
why
like,
was New England? No, New England had a KKK problem in the 90s because I think they were getting kicked out of like Arkansas and different places and they were like kind of hiding out in New England because what was his name? Jerry Barriers. It was like a stupid name and he was like the grand wizard of the KKK and his daughter went to school with me for like exactly 1 year. She is very famous now. She's like still a Nazi. He like denounced it in his when he got
oh,
like
interesting.
before he died, as a lot of
Yeah.
horrible people do. But she we got to, you know how you get to do book reports on whatever you want? So I did mine on like, I don't
Where's
know,
this going?
Goosebumps. I was like 11 and
Amazing.
she did hers on Mein Kampf. And I was like, what? It was the first time I ever heard of it. And I remember Mr. Romano was like, what? You're 11. Why do you know what this is? These people are
Yeah.
crazy though. Yeah, but we also had a lot of Hell's Angels, which I appreciated. I have a
Yeah.
we'll have the Hells Angels on someday. I have like a certain different perspective on the Hells Angels than the average person, and I think they were very nice. So,
It's fantastic. Are we going to have somebody from the Bachelor franchise on with the Hells Angels? Is that going to be at the
well, we
same?
should now. Speaking of the Bachelor franchise, I have Rachel Lindsay's phone number. We could literally call her up
She's
and have her on maybe
so
next week. She'd be the
cool.
best one. She's
And her
very cool.
commentary about what just happened is phenomenal. I was reading some of that last night because she found out while she was filming, like taping something
Mm,
about and spoke about it off the cuff, just like in this incredibly like thorough and interesting way, obviously from the expertise of lived experience and from analyzing The Bachelor since she's been on it, right? So,
mhm.
oh, that'd be really
All right, let me
cool.
see if I could get her to come next week or one of these weeks because, like we said, we're talking about propaganda and American television and media and the way that it is used. And there should be no expectation that it isn't being used in exactly the same way it always was. It's always used to perpetuate racism, to perpetuate the patriarchy, to make you feel left out of something, and to take away like our leisure and escape places by making those places of anxiety also. Like, I can't even like enjoy stupid 90 Day Fiance show because now the people are so batshit crazy on it that
Yeah.
it's like, I'm worried for their physical safety, or like with the Bachelorette. It's a honey trap, luring people into the false sense of good times in the past, all while fucking up things behind the
Yeah.
scenes. You are absolutely
Yeah.
right. And the Hells Angels of New England are amazing people. Okay, I remember them quite fondly. I think they were good dudes. They might have been selling heroin and killing people. I don't know, but I didn't experience that.
That wasn't your
You
experience
know,
with
oh
them.
jeez. No, I think once the Hells Angels came to New England, they were probably like, just trying to make their way. I don't know. The Hells Angels probably don't want me to say that. Y'all very bad, very bad, very scary. Yeah, totally. I
Intimidating.
great respect. But what I remember about them is doing like motorcycle runs where like if a kid was getting bullied, they would like escort the kid to school,
Yeah.
so they could like show up on the back of a Harley and like then you wouldn't get bullied anymore or whatever. Like they did decent stuff.
Yeah.
It's like my feelings about the mafia. Sometimes the mafia did run things better than the state of New York. They just did for some people. So, I don't know.
Oh my goodness
Oh,
gracious.
yeah.
I while we're talking, one of the things that I'm thinking about too is it's interesting that both of us have made like the importance of media literacy and teaching media literacy a central part of our like lives and
Life.
mission in life.
Hmm.
I wonder, and I'm curious what you think about this, if that is partially due to our like 9/11 experiences. Um,
I think very
because
much could be,
yeah,
sure. Hmm.
yeah, because it is interesting. I mean, I think it's one of the places where like aside from all of our, friendship overlaps, our intellectual lives really overlap.
Hmm.
And I think we saw firsthand, having like been in New York in the early 2000s, what it
Hmm.
was like to go through something intensely traumatic and then see it translated through popular culture and watch
Hmm.
people reacting to it and seeing all the vendors of like never forget merch pop up.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, days after the attacks, like at the site of the attacks,
Hmm.
and experiencing the dissonance between what it felt like to have been in the immediate vicinity of that event,
Hmm.
and then like going back to our hometowns and talking to people about how they were processing and experiencing
Hmm.
that. Um, for me, I think that mismatch really changed my brain chemistry in ways where I now am just like so attentive to what we're being told and how we're being told and the importance of listening to people like in the experience on the ground, that sort of thing.
Hmm. Think about how popular FDNY and NYPD t-shirts became. I
Mhm.
think about that a lot, like, because when the Make America Great Again stuff came out and whatnot, I was like, okay, there's like an attempt to, and I learned this in marketing school, in grad school, when I went to grad school. Uh, when you can put your logo on someone, you are really like branding them to you for a much longer amount of time. It's why like in the 90s there weren't like big logos on stuff, but then it became popular and then it was like, is that a t-shirt or is that an Abercrombie t-shirt? And if you remember, it was
Yeah.
like the bigger the logo, the better. Now we're kind
Gap.
of back to no logo, Gap. Except now I would say we're back to big logo where people want to see ALO, right? They want to see Lululemon, like it's more branded, but it goes through these ebbs and flows. Right after 9/11, wearing an FDNY, an NYPD, US Army t shirt as a civilian, regular person was extremely normalized. It was everywhere. And I think, and then we got movies that came out about it, right? It was all about like Saving Private Ryan. All those were coming out, even though
Mhm.
those were old timey war movies. They were sort of normalizing that we were at war right now. Then you had Zero Dark 30 and, oh, it was the first female director and like all these different things and trying to make it so popular, so celebrated. So this is what it is. Um, and I have heard, and we keep sort of like talking about it, that the next thing they're trying to get us to rock out on is going to be ICE. That Hollywood is working with the government. Do you know that Hollywood and the Department of Defense work together extremely closely? They have a program that brings in Hollywood directors and showrunners and funders 2 or 3 times a year to embed with the military for a week for like a little stolen valor tour where they can all feel like they're in the military so that they fund military programs and then they say, oh, we'll give you access to experts and whatnot to make sure your movie's really perfect. But it's
Mhm.
really about Hollywood creating propaganda for the war machine.
Yeah, I just I just did Zero Dark 30 for Films for Fighting Fascism a few weeks ago. And if you're going to use sort of like any military equipment or that kind of thing, you have to be collaborating with
Hmm.
the DoD. And so Zero Dark 30, the CIA was like in the room when that was being written as well, right?
Hmm.
And you bringing up Catherine Bigelow as like the first, winning female director, there was so much going on there where it's like, how could it be reactionary? It's the first female director, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yet, conversations about how much that movie normalized torture are still ongoing, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I had a lot of people be like, it's critiquing it. And I'm like, but the movie implies that they use it to solve the problem and the problem is solved, right? Even though that wasn't the
Right.
reality of it, the movie implies that the information they got from torturing people was used to kill Osama bin Laden in ways that, like,
Hmm.
that's come out as false later, right? But, like,
Hmm.
how could you collaborate with the CIA and not be influenced on some
Of course.
level about the
Yeah.
narrative that they want to get across to the public, right? So
Also, is it
whenever
Chris
you
Kyle,
see,
the sniper? Who's the sniper? Because this is going to bring me to the Erica Kirk widow tour. Because
ooh, let's
remember
talk
when
about it.
Chris Kyle, but this is all, and what you're going to see is you're going to see it now with Ice. Hollywood's going to start making Ice as the hero type movies and like,
Chris Kyle.
they're going to
Hmm.
try it. When Chris Kyle died, right, he was killed. I forget what his story was exactly. He's some kind of war hero person though. He was the
Yes.
sniper
Um,
and then he died,
he was killed. I am trying to remember. He was widely regarded as the deadliest sniper in US history,
right?
which, what an honor, like what
Yes.
an interesting thing.
Bradley
Um,
Cooper starred as the Navy SEAL Chris Kyle in the 2014 biographical war drama American Sniper, right? He was murdered in 2013 at a Texas shooting range by a Marine veteran suffering from PTSD. Oh gosh, a situation that occurred before the film was released. I knew he was killed. So he was this
yeah,
big hero, and then he was killed by a Marine at the gun range. And then they had his widow really sort of like carry on and like talk about all these different things. And I think that she authentically lived that life, but I think she is the possibility model for the Erica Kirk widow tour. Like they took somebody who really experienced and authentically
yeah.
went through a horrible thing, and they were like, how do we monetize that? We'll make a movie about it. We'll make her a influencer. And now Erica Kirk is kind of doing this similar thing with this idea of like the grieving American hero widow
See, is it
CEO.
working with CEO something?
No, because she's deeply unlikable. Deeply unlikable.
Yeah.
And there's
Who
too much
is
weird stuff
turning
with
up to
him.
these events?
Older people, mostly. I have a
Yeah.
couple friends who cover like because for the news they have to go cover CPAC and like these turning point events. And for Charlie Kirk genuinely went to schools and there were young people there. Young people weren't showing up for Charlie Kirk. He was on their campus and they came. It wasn't like anybody went super far. Bet there'll be a lot of college students at my thing tonight. I'm on a college campus. Like that's going to be
Right.
natural. But I could take a picture of the audience tonight and go, 4,000 young people showed up for me. Of course they did. It's mandatory. They're getting extra credit for coming to the omnibus speaker thing tonight. Like we know how it
Right.
goes, but you could
Hmm.
spin it however you want. The people who are showing up to the events now are mostly retirees, folks who, it's something to do and they're interested in it and they think that they're like supporting him. The killing of Charlie Kirk really someday will be studied in the way that like they took their best guy and somehow didn't protect him enough or whatever happened. And now he's gone. And so is all of the power he built into that particular machine because everyone who tried to pick it up can't. And the people who did pick up sort of the fringes of Charlie Kirk's work are even further right and even more
Right. Nick
crazy. So
Fuentes and those people,
yeah,
right?
Erica Kirk
Yeah.
trying to pick it up and be like, I'm now the CEO when Charlie spent most of his time saying women should stay home and be quiet is not going to fly with his audience. And she's not
Right.
dynamic. She's sort of depressing. Charlie, I don't agree with a damn thing he said at all. But the man was a showman. He could put on a show, and that's what he did. And that's how he hooked him. And he could go back and forth, and he had really good energy with the people, even though he was an awful person. She does not have that. I don't know that anybody in the right wing has it. It's sort of like when they say, who's the next Trump? There isn't one. There won't be one. People aren't built like that anymore. And nobody is going to pick up where Charlie left off. Who? JD Vance, Michael Knowles, Erica Kirk. Like they've tried. Flynn, like there's no such thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, The Pit did a special on ICE showing how bad they are. Speaking of American media,
Oh
we'll have
my
to
gosh,
watch that.
I haven't caught up on that. I love The Pit. I'm obsessed because we were traveling on Friday and we were spending the weekend with my folks. We haven't watched the latest Pit yet. And I obviously am going to have to do that tonight. No riz at all.
Yes,
Totally.
no
Oh, that's
riz. Yeah.
so interesting. The Pit is
So
doing
yeah,
super interesting things this time around.
what network are they
Thinking
on? NBC?
HBO.
Oh,
HBO. Have
HBO.
you
Okay,
not
good.
watched The Pit?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
it's so good, V.
I
It's one
know.
of the
I'm
things
done
that I'm
traveling
like,
soon, so I will.
one of the things that I was thinking out loud about in content a couple of weeks ago is Ursula Le Guin, who was this speculative fiction author, basically. Like she wrote "Those Who Walk Away from Omelas," this very famous short story about a society that's happy because one child is suffering in a hole. Basically, she
Mm,
also, as like a metaphor for capitalism, obviously, but she wrote this essay again, like 5 pages long, called "The Carrier Bag Theory of Fiction," which is kind of a manifesto about how we tell too many spear shaped stories, right? Like going out and hunting and conquering and fighting and being the
hmm
hero and that sort of thing. And it's like singular and it's violence based. And she's arguing in this essay that we should be telling more carrier bag stories, which is about like connection and taking care of each other. And she kind of relates it to like anthropology. Like people say that the first tool was a spear when actually it was probably a bag, right? You need to carry things from place
mm,
to place, right?
hmm
Um, and to me, The Pit is a really great example of a carrier bag narrative, right? It's not about fighting and conquering and being a singular hero. It's about like trying to hold the community and yourself and the people around you. It's about connection and care and all of these different things in this sort of like is- isolated small space. Like even though the things that are
mm,
happening are dramatic, it's not an exceptional location, it's an emergency room, and there are
hmm
emergency rooms everywhere, right?
hmm
And people are tired but they're still trying do their best. And there is something, both, I think the intensity of the dramatic action is cathartic because I think it mirrors how dramatic everything feels right now. Do you know what I mean? And so you
Yeah.
can get this kind of
hmm
fix of feeling a lot of like big feelings without it being directly about some of the things that are most scary, but it's able to approach things like um, what happens to unhoused people on the street and what
mm
happens
hmm
when deaf patients can't get interpreters and what happens
mm
when people are overworked and overtired and still traumatized from covid and like all these different
Yeah.
things. It's just it's lovely. It deserves all the flowers it's getting and I'm really excited to see what they do with this ice narrative.
I will check it out. I'm interested to see too because I just don't think ICE propaganda is going to fly. I don't think anybody's going to start wearing ICE t-shirts around. It's just they're not. There's nothing about them that is going well. They are in the airports now. They've been in the airports. ICE has been stationed in airports for a long time now. They're not going to be helping TSA in any way. They're just going to be doing their same harassment clown game.
Yeah.
Um, Before we go, we did have a couple funny comments on the Instagram and the TikTok that I was able to check just in the last minute here. If you want your comments to show up on the screen, you have to comment on YouTube. This platform only allows me to put the YouTube comments up. So consider that for next time you watch. We're every single day live, 10 to 11:30 a.m. But someone had an interesting suggestion. Since we talked today about the capitalist hellfire that is the dating shows, and like, what about Erica Kirk for the next Bachelorette? What if Erica Kirk was the Bachelorette? Could you see? Now, if it was on CBS, I think we'd have a chance. But seeing as how it's on the Hulu ABC family, I don't know. I don't think she's going to make it, but that'd be heckin'
The
show.
budget for tissues
Maybe
and pyrotechnics would be really outrageous, I think.
astronomical. I do wonder though, because Chris Harrison is coming out with his own dating show, which is for traditional families, like The Bachelor and Bachelorette hasn't been traditional this whole time. I mean, it's like it's men
Right.
and women the whole
Uber
time.
conservative. That's another
Um,
thing that we could talk about. Yeah.
Uber conservative and very, yeah, like, oh, I want a family, I want to be a Christian, I want to be this, that, the other, like all that kind of
And
stuff
if
has
you're a
been
woman,
so
you're like
important and built in.
22, 24, right? Like, yeah, yeah.
Yes, kids are so important to me. Family is everything. Yeah, like all the tropes. So anyway, she is so Chris Harrison's launching this show, I think on like Great American Family Network, the Kristen or Candace Cameron Bure Christian network for
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
alternate Hallmark movies that are even more Christiany. So I she could maybe Erica Kirk could maybe have a shot over there, but I don't know if she'll make it on Hulu show.
Island thrown out too. And I was like, that's kind of
You know,
brilliant,
she'd be a good one.
actually. Yeah.
She's very funny. Yeah, we've got Love Island starting again with
I've
Ariana Madix, our
never
new friend.
I've never done Love Island, but it feels like I should because that feels like it could be a fun touchstone for us.
I think we'll watch because Ariana Madix is a pal now. We met at Glad, and she's going to come on the show one of these weeks. So maybe after Love Island, we'll have her come on and talk about it. But I thought
Fun.
because yeah, I never know who celebrities are. So when I was doing the Glad red carpet, they were like, "That's Ariana Madix from Love Island," and I was like, "Oh, okay, great." And they're like, "She was also on Vanderpump," and I was like, "Okay, I have no idea who she is. I now know who she is, but I didn't watch Vanderpump, so I had no idea like her drama with Tom and all that other stuff." And she's so rad. She's the absolute coolest person, genuinely interesting, like little like firebrand. But I'm interviewing her and I'm like, okay, so you're Love Island. Like, what are you looking for in a man? And she's like, I have a man. And that's when I was like, oh, she's the host. So everybody making fun of Jake Shane for not knowing how to interview on the red carpet, I'm going to tell you, they do not prepare you whatsoever. It is kind of weird and overwhelming, and sometimes you don't know who the person is, and so it has nothing to do with being a good or a bad journalist. It has to do with sometimes they put somebody in front of you, and you're like, "Are you a contestant?"
Hi,
Then
buddy. Yeah.
I'm like, hi, what do you want to talk about? Then I asked the girl from, I was like, what are you here for? And she's like, representing the Traders. And I was like, okay, what season? She's like, season 3. I'm like, okay. So I'm talking to her. I'm like, so Traders, season 3, what do you think about Rob? What do you think about this? Would you have played it that way? What is the cast look like? What's the schedule like? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, now that you've been on the Traders, would you ever do another show? Like, would you do like Big Brother or Survivor? And she's like, well, I won Survivor twice. So I was like, you
Was
know
it
what? Fuck
Natalie?
me.
Is
I don't
that
know
who it
anything.
was?
No,
Who was it?
poverty, something. I can't remember her name now.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Swallow
Yeah.
is the last name, like the bird. And I'm like, oh, well, the,
But
the only
how
one I knew
like how
anything
do you
about was
keep up
Amber
with
Glenn. Amber Glenn was the one I knew, and I was like, we're doing ice skating.
it's not just that there's so much reality TV, it's that there are so many episodes of those shows and they're so long. Because I'd like thought about picking up Survivor again, but it's like all these premieres are
It's too
3 hours
much.
long, and it's like the lore is deep, and yeah, yeah.
Erica Kirk did a dating show. She's not very Christian in it. Also, she
Oh,
lies
that's
about
right.
having been on one. Yep. So, guess that was your chance. Well, Shan, it has been another fun Monday. Thank you so much. Shan will be back next Monday where we talk about pop culture headlines and hot takes. Thank you, Vienna, who was our stand-in producer for today. We got to put the little things up on the screen and add links and stuff. This is very exciting. We're building the show as you watch it. So let us know if you are enjoying it. And again, if you're in Fort Wayne, Indiana, you want to come see the show tonight, it's at Purdue. Just Google bestie or Fort Wayne. It'll come up. And that's it. And then we'll talk tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow with more hot geopolitical gossip for the people with Eric, who is he might be in Albania right now, our international roving correspondent, Eric. But I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about with regards to Iran and whatnot. So bye.
It was
We'll
so
see you
good to
later,
talk to you. Thanks
friends.
for
You
being
too.
here.
Bye. Don't click off because
Bye.
we need it to upload. So you stay on, Shan. Everybody else, we'll see you later.
You got it.